Change by Design, Revised, and Updated, by Tim Brown. Introduction. Imagine it's the early 2000s, and you're a top executive at Shimano, a world-leading Japanese manufacturer of high-end bicycle parts. For decades, your company has thrived by creating cutting-edge technology for professional road racers and serious mountain bikers. But now, growth has stalled. The market is saturated. What do? The old way of thinking would be to double down. Invest more in research, shave a few grams off a gear shifter, and create a marketing campaign about speed and performance. But Shimano decided to try something completely different. They brought in a team of design thinkers who didn't start by looking at bicycles. They started by looking at people. The team's first question wasn't how can we make a better bike? It was, why do 90% of American adults not ride bikes, even though most of them have happy memories of riding as a kid? They didn't just crunch market data. They went out and talked to people from all walks of life. They discovered that for most adults, modern cycling was intimidating. The bike shops were filled with super-fit, lycra-clad experts who made novices feel uncomfortable. The bikes themselves were complex, expensive machines with tangled cables and countless gears. They were built for sport, not for simple, carefree fun. And in that discovery, a huge, untapped market revealed itself. The team realized people didn't want a faster horse. They didn't even want a faster bike. They wanted to reconnect with a simple joy they felt as a child. Inspired by the old-school Schwinn bikes everyone remembered, they came up with a new concept, coasting. These would be bikes designed for pleasure, not performance. No complicated controls on the handlebars, no messy cables, just a comfortable seat, upright handlebars, and brakes that worked by pedaling backward, just like when you were a kid. But they didn't stop at just designing a bike. They designed the entire experience. They created new retail strategies to make bike shops feel welcoming. They developed a brand that was all about fun and exploration, with a tagline that said, "First one, there's a rotten egg." They even created a website to help people find safe, scenic places to ride. This is the power of a revolutionary idea called design thinking. It's a way of solving problems that has been used by a company called IDEO and its CEO Tim Brown to create some of the most iconic products of our time, including the very first mouse for Apple. In his book, Change by Design, Tim Brown pulls back the curtain on this powerful process. And I promise you, by the end of our journey today, you will have a new lens through which to see the world. You'll understand that you don't need to be a designer to solve problems like a designer. You'll learn a repeatable framework that can be applied to any challenge, whether you're building a new product, reimagining a business, tackling a global issue, or even designing a more meaningful life for yourself. This isn't just about making things look pretty. It's about a fundamental shift in how we create, innovate, and make a meaningful impact on the world. Book summary. Have you ever found yourself frustrated by a product that seems needlessly complicated? A phone system with too many buttons? A website that's impossible to navigate? Or a car dashboard that feels like a cockpit? We've all been there. And for a long time, the author, Tim Brown, found himself in a similar position, even as a professional designer. Early in his career, he designed woodworking machines for a company called Wadkin Bursgreen. He spent a summer making their circular saws look better and their spindle molders easier to use, and he did a good job. But years later, the company went out of business. It was then he realized a profound truth. He had been focused on designing a better machine, but he hadn't stopped to ask if the future of the woodworking industry itself was in question. He was perfecting a link in a chain, when he should have been thinking about the entire system. This experience set him on a journey to understand the difference between being a designer and thinking like a designer. He realized that the most inspiring figures weren't just artists. They were people like the engineer Isambard Kingdom Brunel, who, when designing the Great Western Railway in the 1800s, wasn't just focused on technology. He insisted on the flattest possible gradient for the tracks, not for efficiency, but because he wanted his passengers to have the magical feeling of floating across the countryside. He was balancing technology, business, and human experience. He was a design thinker. So, what is this powerful way of thinking? Tim Brown explains that it's not some mysterious gift reserved for a creative few. It's a systematic approach to problem solving that puts people first. It's about integrating what is desirable from a human point of view with what is technologically feasible and economically viable. The magic happens not by prioritizing one of these, but by finding the harmonious balance between all three. This human-centered approach is the heart of design thinking. But how do you actually find out what people truly desire? The book reveals that it's rarely by just asking them. The great industrialist Henry Ford once famously said, "If I'd asked my customers what they wanted, they'd have said a faster horse." People often can't articulate what they need because they are so used to their current reality. They create clever workarounds for inconvenient situations without even realizing it. The book tells a story of a travel agent who, instead of using her company's impossibly complex conference call system, would simply dial each person on a separate telephone and line up the receivers on her desk. A traditional problem solver might see that and say, "She needs to read the manual." But a design thinker sees that behavior as meaningful. It's a clue. It reveals a latent need, a need people have that they may not even know they have. Her workaround tells us that the current system is failing, and there's an opportunity to create something simpler and more intuitive. To uncover these latent needs, design thinkers rely on a powerful trio of tools: insight, observation, and empathy. Insight doesn't come from massive spreadsheets of quantitative data. It comes from going out into the real world and observing the actual experiences of people. And often, the most powerful insights don't come from the average user in the middle of the market. They come from the edges, from the extreme users. When the Swiss company Xylus wanted to design a new line of kitchen tools, the team didn't just study average home cooks. They studied professional chefs and 7-year-old children. Neither group was their target market, but their exaggerated needs revealed important truths. Watching a 7-year-old struggle with a can opener highlighted issues of physical control that most adults have learned to compensate for without thinking. Watching a professional chef, who needs tools that are incredibly efficient and easy to clean, revealed unexpected shortcuts. These observations from the extremes led to a breakthrough. Instead of a perfectly matched set of tools that all looked the same, they created a line where each tool had the perfect handle for its specific job. The result? The products flew off the shelves. Observation is about watching what people do and don't do, and listening to what they say and don't say. But observation alone isn't enough. You have to connect with people on a fundamental level. This is where empathy comes in. Empathy is the effort to see the world through other people's eyes, to understand it through their experiences, and to feel it through their emotions. There's no better story to illustrate this than one from a project to redesign a hospital emergency room. One of the team members, Christian Simzarian, wanted to truly understand the patient experience. So what did he do? He checked himself into the hospital, feigning a foot injury, and went through the entire process from admission to examination, just like a real patient. With a video camera hidden under his hospital gown, he captured everything. When the team watched the footage, they experienced what he experienced: the disorienting check-in process, the anxiety of being wheeled down anonymous corridors, and the crushing boredom of staring at ceiling tiles for minutes on end, with no idea what was happening. They realized the hospital saw the patient journey in terms of administrative tasks like insurance verification and bed allocation. But the patient experienced it as a stressful situation made worse by a lack of information and control. That single act of empathy was more powerful than any report or survey. It shifted the entire focus of the project from just optimizing medical procedures to designing a more humane and comforting experience for the patient. Once you have these human-centered insights, the design thinking process moves into a dynamic, and often messy, journey through what Tim Brown calls the 3 spaces of innovation: inspiration, ideation, and implementation. Inspiration is the phase where you gather these insights and frame the problem or opportunity. Ideation is the process of generating, developing, and testing ideas. And implementation is the path that leads from the project room to the real world. Crucially, this is not a neat, linear process where you complete one step and move to the next. It's an iterative, overlapping system. You might be in the middle of testing an idea ideation and make a discovery that sends you back to gather more insights, inspiration. To an outsider, it can look chaotic. One client, after observing the process, frantically called her office and said, "These people have no process." A few weeks later, she had become a complete convert. This apparent chaos is actually a structured dance between two different modes of thinking: divergent thinking and convergent thinking. Divergent thinking is about creating choices. It's when you multiply your options and explore as many different possibilities as you can, without judgment. Convergent thinking is about making choices. It's when you analyze the possibilities you've generated, eliminate options, and focus in on a solution. Most organizations are really good at convergent thinking. They are built for efficiency and love to narrow down options quickly. But innovation lives in the divergent phase. As the two-time Nobel Prize winner Linus Pauling said, "To have a good idea, you must first have lots of ideas." The design thinking process is a rhythmic pulse between these two modes, diverging to create options, converging to make choices, then diverging again to explore the chosen path, and so on. One of the most powerful tools for navigating this process is something you probably did constantly as a child: prototyping. When Tim Brown was a boy during a series of blackouts in England, he didn't just wish for a light. He grabbed his entire collection of Legos and built a big flashlight to help his mother cook dinner. He had built his first prototype. He was thinking with his hands. Most of us unlearn this skill as we become adults, trading our Lego bricks for spreadsheets and reports. But design thinkers know that prototyping is not just a way to validate a finished idea. It's a way to explore and develop ideas in the first place. It's about building to think. The key is that early prototypes should be quick, rough, and cheap. The goal isn't to create a perfect working model. It's to make an idea tangible just enough so that you can learn from it, get feedback, and move forward. The book shares a fantastic story about a team designing a new surgical instrument. During a meeting, a surgeon was trying to describe a new kind of pistol grip he wanted, using awkward words and hand gestures. Right after the meeting, one of the designers grabbed what was lying around: a whiteboard marker, an empty film canister, and a plastic clothespin. He taped them together to create a crude, three-dimensional sketch of the surgeon's idea. That simple, zero-cost prototype instantly put everyone on the same page and saved countless hours of confusion and meetings. Prototyping isn't limited to physical products. You can prototype anything. You can prototype a service, a digital experience, or even a new business organization. When Amtrak was developing its high-speed Acela train service, the initial focus was on designing the seats. But the design team stepped back and created a different kind of prototype: a customer journey map. They charted the entire experience of a traveler, from getting to the station, to buying a ticket, to finding the platform. They discovered that the passenger didn't even sit in their seat until stage 8 of a 10-step journey. Most of the train travel experience had nothing to do with the train itself. That simple prototype revealed that every step along the way was an opportunity to create a better experience, opportunities that would have been missed if they had only focused on the seats. For even more complex experiences, like a hotel stay, you can prototype by acting things out. For a project with Marriott, a design team rented an old warehouse and built a full-scale mock-up of a hotel lobby and guest suite using flimsy foam core and masking tape. It wasn't about aesthetics. It was a stage. On this stage, designers, clients, and even customers could act out different scenarios in real space and real time to see what felt right. This serious play led to a host of innovations, like a giant wall map in the lobby where guests could mark interesting local spots, a kind of open-source guest book. As ideas become more refined, they need a way to travel and spread. This is where the final core tool of design thinking comes into play: storytelling. We are storytelling animals. It's how we put ideas into context and give them meaning. A good idea buried in a technical report might die, but a good idea wrapped in a compelling story can start a movement. The Cool Biz campaign in Japan is a masterful example. In 2005, the Japanese government wanted to get people involved in reducing greenhouse gas emissions to meet its Kyoto Protocol commitments. Previous attempts had failed. One of the biggest energy drains was air conditioning in office buildings, which were cooled to frigid temperatures so that businessmen could comfortably wear their traditional suits and ties in the hot summer. Instead of just running ads telling people to be more eco-friendly, the Hakuhodo agency created a story. They launched CoolBiz, a national campaign encouraging businesses to relax their dress codes during the summer so that thermostats could be turned up. To make it socially acceptable for conservative businessmen to show up to work without a tie, they did something brilliant. They staged a fashion show where dozens of high-profile CEOs, and even the Prime Minister, Junichiro Koizumi, walked the runway in casual, tieless business attire. The event was a sensation. It sent a powerful message from the top down. It's okay to change tradition for a greater good. Within a year, the CoolBiz slogan was recognized by over 95% of the population, and the campaign led to massive energy savings. It became a cool story that people wanted to be a part of. These tools, empathy, prototyping, storytelling, are not just for creating better products. The book's second half explores a thrilling idea. As design thinking moves out of the design studio and into the boardroom, it can be applied to solve some of our biggest and most complex challenges. We're moving from a world of products to a world of services and experiences. We don't just want a phone. We want seamless connectivity. We don't just want a car. We want mobility. And design thinking is perfectly suited to tackle these complex systems. The book describes the monumental challenge of redesigning the airport security experience for the U.S. Transportation Security Administration, or TSA. A traditional approach would focus on the objects, better X-ray machines, more efficient conveyor belts. But design thinkers reframed the problem. They realized that security officers and the traveling public weren't adversaries, they were partners with a shared goal of safe travel. Through observation, they saw that anxious, confused passengers created a stressful environment that made it harder for officers to spot genuinely suspicious behavior. So the question evolved from how can we reconfigure the checkpoint, to how can we instill a feeling of empathy on both sides of the X-ray machine. The solutions were systemic: better signs to explain the process, a physical layout that gave people more space to organize themselves, and a new training program for officers that focused on understanding human behavior, not just following a script. This scaling up of design thinking opens the door to what the book calls design activism, applying these human-centered methods to inspire solutions with global potential. And often, the most groundbreaking innovations come from the places with the most extreme constraints. Consider the Aravind Eye Hospital in India. Founded by Dr. G. Venkataswamy, its mission was to eradicate preventable blindness by providing cataract surgery to the rural poor. Importing Western medical technology was impossibly expensive. So, driven by necessity, they redesigned the entire system from the ground up. They adopted an assembly line efficiency in the operating room, where a single surgeon can perform dozens of surgeries in a day, moving from one prepared patient to the next. Instead of importing expensive intraocular lenses for $200 a pair, they figured out how to manufacture their own for just a few dollars. And in a profound act of empathy, Dr. V realized that his patients, who came from poor villages, didn't need fancy recovery wards with TVs. In fact, such an environment might make them feel uncomfortable. So, postoperative recovery took place in a simple room with rush mats on the floor, which was as comfortable as what they were used to at home. This allowed Auravine to operate on a sustainable business model where paying patients subsidized the free care given to the poor. It's an incredible example of how extreme constraints, when met with empathy and a willingness to innovate, can lead to world-changing solutions. From redesigning education in Peru with the Innovat Schools project, to redesigning democracy itself with a new voting system for Los Angeles County, the book is filled with inspiring stories of design thinking being applied to the world's most wicked problems. Ultimately, Change by Design leaves us with a powerful and optimistic message. The world is full of challenges, from outmoded societal systems to the urgent need for a more sustainable economy. But these are not just problems to be managed, they are design opportunities waiting to be seized. And the tools to seize them? Empathy, observation, prototyping, and storytelling? are not the exclusive property of designers. They are accessible to anyone with the curiosity to ask why, the courage to fail, and the belief that we can, and must, design a better future. Commentary. As we wrap up our journey through change by design, what strikes me most is how hopeful and empowering its central message is. In a world that can often feel overwhelmingly complex and full of problems that seem too big to solve, Tim Brown offers us not a magic bullet, but something far more valuable: a mindset, a way of looking at any challenge, no matter how daunting, and seeing it not as a roadblock, but as a creative opportunity. The most powerful lesson, for me, is the radical shift from a problem-first to a people-first approach. For so long, business and innovation have been driven by technology or by financial metrics. We ask, what can we build? Or what will be profitable? Design thinking flips the script and forces us to start with a much more profound question: what do people truly need? It's a return to a fundamentally human way of creating. It reminds us that behind every data point is a person with hopes, fears, and frustrations. The story of the emergency room patient is a perfect example. No amount of data on patient processing times could ever capture the feeling of anxiety and powerlessness that one person experienced by simply lying on a gurney and looking up at the ceiling. Empathy, the book shows us, is not a soft skill. It is the most critical source of innovation we have. The other idea that truly resonates is the concept of building to think. We are educated to believe that we must think our way to the perfect answer before we act. We write detailed plans and endlessly debate ideas in meetings. But design thinking encourages us to embrace a kind of productive impatience, to get our hands dirty, to build rough, imperfect prototypes and learn from them. It frees us from the paralysis of perfectionism and gives us permission to learn by doing. It reminds us that failure isn't the opposite of success. It's a critical part of the process, as long as we fail early to succeed sooner. So, how can you start applying this powerful mindset to your own life? Starting today, here are 3 simple actions you can take. First, become an anthropologist of your own life. Pick one routine activity you do every day: making breakfast, your commute to school, your homework process. For one day, observe it as if you were seeing it for the first time. Notice the little frustrations, the workarounds, the thoughtless acts. Why do you hang your jacket on the back of a chair instead of in the closet? Why do you have to dig through a messy drawer every morning? Each of these observations is an insight, a small design opportunity waiting for a creative solution. Second, build a quick and dirty prototype. The next time you have an idea, for a school project, a new club, or even just a better way to organize your room, resist the urge to just write a list. Grab some paper, cardboard, anything you have, and build a rough, physical representation of it. Don't worry about making it look good. The goal is just to make your idea tangible. You will be amazed at how the act of building it with your hands changes and improves your original thought. And third, reframe a problem. The next time you face a challenge, instead of jumping to solutions, take a step back and ask why. 5 times. If the problem is I don't have enough time to finish my homework, ask why. Because my assignments take too long. Why? Because I get distracted. Why? You'll find that by digging deeper, you often discover that the problem you thought you had isn't the real problem at all. You might move from trying to find a better time management app to realizing you need to create a distraction-free workspace. That was a summary of Change by Design by Tim Brown. We've explored the core principles today, but I'll be honest with you. A summary is like looking at a map of a beautiful country. It can show you the major cities and highways, but it can never replace the experience of actually walking the streets, meeting the people, and discovering a hidden cafe for yourself. The real magic of this book is in the stories and the subtle shifts in perspective that happen as you read. This summary is your map, designed to help you decide if this is a journey you want to take. If anything we've talked about today has sparked your curiosity, I truly encourage you to pick up a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning a new business strategy. It's about unlocking a more creative, empathetic, and effective way of seeing and shaping your world. The link to the book is in the description. Also, if you found this summary valuable and want to continue exploring the ideas within the world's most influential books, Please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel, Billionaire's Bookshelf. Your support helps us continue our mission of bringing these powerful lessons to you. Let's keep learning and growing together.